Здравствуйте. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I joined SRK, I was a planning manager at several mines, and I went through the planning processes during difficult economic circumstances. In one mine, we needed to cut production by 50% because our market had collapsed overnight. And we had to go through and identify how we were going to do that, how we were going to survive. Another mine, we were really pleased that the coal price is now up to $30 a ton. And how are we going to enjoy this great period? But it's always known to be temporary because the price goes up and the price goes down. So we learned various techniques about how to be able to manage our costs, to make sure that we had effective systems that worked not just today,
затратами не только сегодня, но и завтра и послезавтра. Я уже видел в России несколько таких рудников, где хорошо ведется политика ведения расходов. Но слова «нет» — это часто встречающееся слово. Должно быть еще одно слово. Где-нибудь еще, например. Вот то, что мы нашли, это прежде всего детальная система планирования, благодаря чему мы могли контролировать наши затраты, повышать эффективность, используя более хорошие технологии, и не только говоря «нет» никаким излишним расходам. Проблема с словом «нет» заключается в том, что люди стараются не тратить деньги. Это все равно, что отрезать ногу, чтобы снизить вес. Вот внизу картинка — это результат многих лет, когда люди говорили «нет, нет и нет», когда запчасти не покупали и не покупали. И до тех пор, пока это склад запчастей на 26 самосвалов. И представьте теперь, сколько будет простаивать самосвал. Можно купить 3 новых самосвала, нежели вести учет запчастей, покупать их меньше, чем на $500 000. Вот именно такие обстоятельства нужно избегать. Старое руководство, как проверять и проверять. Это и сейчас существует. Относится к сегодняшнее преимущество этой системы электронного планирования, которая помогает нам помогать детально. Если мы понимаем детали, принимаем более эффективные решения. И это часть планирования, это прежде всего планирование, выполнение, проверка, действия. И прежде всего не нужно стараться стать эффективнее лично, если система неэффективная. Эффективная система управления прежде всего. Информация поступает тем, от кого зависит принятие решений в нужное время. Это тоже часть выполнения, часть проверки, как лучше учиться. Я думаю, что у нас слишком много времени уделяют нормам и стандартам и нормативам, а не обучению, которое может быть более эффективным. Если наша система бюджета 0, мы должны улучшать систему управления для того, чтобы из малого получить как можно больше. Особенно получить это от небольших инвестиций, от наших людей. Геологическое моделирование. Здесь очень много деталей, очень много рудников, у которых имеет хорошее, плохое, достаточное, недостаточное степень исследовательности, разные показатели. Мы работаем с проектами, помогаем нашим заказчикам повысить качество руды или правильно его оценить. Таким образом, такие решения помогают изменить последовательность разработки отдельных участков и рудных тел. Теперь то, что мы делаем, как мы планируем склоны, укрепляем склоны. Прежде всего, это было основано не на том, как ведут себя склоны в условиях трещиноватости грунтовых вод, давлений при бортовой мастере. Все было основано лишь на прочности. Теперь буровзрывные работы — это 10-15%. Мы можем при понимании деталей, мы можем лучше организовать БВР различных как правильно заложить заряд для того, чтобы вся энергия направлялась на горную массу, а не диссипировала наружу. Правильное планирование БВР помогает повысить рентабельность. Самые большие расходы до 6% это транспортные расходы. Автосамосвалы — это самый распространенный, гибкий вид транспорта, дорого. И иногда конвейеры тоже применяются, но они занимают много места и не всегда правильно оценивают.
Have advantages in terms of cost, but they also have disadvantages in terms of flexibility. Understanding how the shells and the trucks work together. Most of your capital is associated with the truck. It's the truck that needs to be optimized, not the excavator. But you need to know how these can work together. You need to know what is the right size of the truck to match the size of the excavator. You need the right excavator to be able to have the mining efficiency. And you need to make sure things like the truck is fully loaded and it's driving at the right speeds. So get these under control, and that will help reduce your costs. Knowing when to replace the equipment is also important. You buy a new piece of equipment, it comes with a repair program. You need to replace some components at 6,000 hours, 12,000 hours, 15,000 hours, and so on. Making the decision whether to repair or replace is an important analysis, and it needs to be done on a strategic level. By this I mean, don't just wait until the machine is broken down and then make the analysis. Do the analysis in advance so that you make the right decision. We see a lot of people operating equipment which should not be operated because it's in poor condition, and as a result they end up with a lot of spare capacity because they can't rely on the equipment to do the job. But keeping that spare capacity is very expensive, and this is an area which can be improved. Many people do not understand how their job links into the overall costs. Now, it's quite simple to create a driver tree with understanding each of the costs, each of the levers, how it all fits together to be able to say, your role is to optimize this area, please work towards this, focus on these points. This sort of information can be taken all the way down to supervisor levels. It's quite common in the contract mines in Australia that your supervisor knows exactly how much it costs to operate each piece of equipment, and he will make decisions as to whether he operates that dozer or that grader or not. Bringing some of that information down will help people make better decisions. These are some of the key points, just as simple guidelines. This is where the key levers are. These are the key areas where people can improve their costs. So we talked about the drilling and blasting. The loading, how much is that excavator swinging, how many passes is it achieving. The trucks, they should not queue. Ideally, a truck should come up, the one truck being loaded pulls away, the next one slots in, and the excavator carries on working. If you can try to avoid queues, then you'll be able to improve efficiencies. Information. Good quality information provides a lot of detail. This is the example of a modern operator terminal, which the operator will feed information in, but also gets information back. The supervisor has a detailed understanding about where all the equipment is, and the managers have this information delivered to them on their screens, on their iPads, on their phones, so they can see exactly what is happening, to allow people to make decisions in real time to be able to improve the operation. But that's not very useful if your operation is not stable. we see that maintenance is often operated as if it is a totally independent activity from operations. It is important that for an efficient operation, you need to minimize the number of interruptions. So one of the areas of interruptions, the unplanned interruptions, is maintenance. You need to stabilize that. I notice a number of people think that planned maintenance is, I'm going to do this next Thursday. That is not planned maintenance. Planned maintenance is having a program which works years in advance. You know when you're going to be changing a component. You bring the parts in just ahead of when you need to have them. You identify, you monitor the condition to see, well, am I going to replace it on October the 25th or November the 7th? When am I going to replace that? You combine the replacement with other components due to be changed at the same time, and as a result, you reduce the number of stoppages, increase the efficiencies. At this mine in Australia, they did that, and over a 6-month period, they increased their productivity by 18% and reduced their costs by 19%. And the reason they did that was because there was greater focus on getting this maintenance sorted out, to be able to combine the maintenance events, to be able to learn, to understand, and to improve the controls. So it didn't end up with higher maintenance costs, it ended up with lower maintenance costs because of the greater focus. Maintenance in Russia tends to focus on availability, utilization, these parameters. There are a lot more criteria which should be focused on. The time between stoppages, the time to repair, all of these areas. These are all important areas to help with the control, to be able to, or the check that I talked about earlier, to make sure that your maintenance system is delivering not just the vehicle back to the fleet quickly, but also that it stays working for as long as possible, that the costs are kept under control, the productivities, the efficiencies are also under control. Understanding the detail is important. Analysing things like the distribution of tyre lives, understanding what happens at shift changes and so on. I don't see enough analysis going on the mines. I don't see students being employed to collect data and to evaluate what is happening. The graph on the left shows the distribution of tyre lives. So if you can get a tyre life can operate at up to 60,000 kilometres, but your majority of them are failing at 30,000, what do you need to do to get them from 30,000 to 60,000? Why is it happening? What can be done? Often it's very simple, it's just a matter of improved road maintenance. Similarly, the graph on the right is showing the impact of what happens over a shift change. This is all based on the fact that the company decided to have their shift change location at the top of the pit rather than having it in different locations. As a result, they lost a lot of productivity every time they shut down for meal breaks or shift changes. A simple change of where they changed the location and they increased productivity by 10-15% immediately. Collecting this data, doing this analysis, comes up with conclusions. It's a rigorous process. It's something that should be done more. I don't see it being done enough. It's easy to get set up and to do. Zero-based budgeting. This means that you build the budget up based on your production statistics, based on your unit costs, your consumption rates. By building it up here, you can then dive into individual parameters. You say, I know I'm going to be doing this. If I improve this efficiency, I will have this impact on the costs. This is a more effective way of building up. And then combined with computerized planning, you can then have a much better control on how your costs are going to be trending over the next few years, the decisions you can make on the mine planning, on the efficiencies of the operations. You can build these together to see what the impact are.
Учитывать эти параметры и можете значительно в большей степени контролировать свои затраты на техническую эксплуатацию. И в заключение, проектирование, технические решения для снижения затрат, на самом деле применение современных технологий, которые позволяют делать то, что раньше вы не могли делать. Особенности позволяют понимать детальную информацию, принимать более качественные решения. Доведение информации до более низкого уровня, доведение информации до ваших инженеров и технических специалистов. Поскольку если вы будете ждать до конца месяца, это слишком поздно, и возможности вы будете вы будете терять. Департаменты, ваши службы должны работать вместе, они изолированы друг от друга. Они должны работать вместе, у них должны быть общие КПЭ, чтобы обеспечить повышение производительности, более эффективную производственную деятельность. И бюджетирование на нулевой основе позволяет вам понимать, как влияют конкретные затраты, что у вас будет завтра, какие последствия будут, если вы что-то измените в своих затратах. Это позволит вам сократить ваши затраты. Большое спасибо.